Hello, welcome. My name is Abbie May. Welcome to my podcast. I am going to be real with you straight off the bat. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be calling this podcast. I think this podcast will be called Better with Abbie May, but there is a good chance that I will change that. And I almost didn't film this today. I almost put this first podcast recording off because I didn't have the name picked yet. And I thought, you can't start a podcast without a name. But I had a conversation with a friend this morning and she reminded me that this is the journey. This is the real journey that I want to show on this podcast. This is the purpose of the podcast. And not having chosen the name, that's relevant. That's relatable. That's something that a lot of people obviously have to choose when starting a podcast or starting a channel like this. So she said, just do it and tell them the truth and you will figure it all out. And I guess diving into it, this is a podcast that I have wanted to do for such a long time. I have in my notes on my iPhone, podcast ideas pretty much from the age of 18, 19. I remember I used to send my best friend podcast ideas that we could do together. But I just felt like I never had a niche. I never had a topic that was worth talking about, worth creating a whole series about. I hadn't yet established myself in any industry or in any sector, and I just felt like there was nothing to grab onto. But I'm at this point now where I know I've got enough to talk about and I know I've got enough experience and knowledge to share to kind of start this podcast where the whole concept is around better. The whole concept is around optimization and strategies that you can implement not only into your business, but into your lifestyle, into your fitness, and into your mindset to achieve better results, to reach a higher potential or a better version of yourself. I'm so excited to finally start this because it is a topic that I am so passionate about. This episode is essentially going to be me introducing myself and talking a little bit about my origin story, who I am, where I've come from, and what has led me to this moment today. But in summary, I have just started my own consulting and marketing agency. And this agency, the vision of it is going to be working with other business owners or other entrepreneurs and helping them build out their marketing strategy and, of course, their overall business strategy. So sitting with online coaches, marketing agency owners, mortgage brokers, physiotherapists, people of that type, and building out their businesses, looking into their mindset and their limiting beliefs and trying to understand from a bird's eye perspective, what can we optimize with your systems, your structures, your marketing strategy, your content plan, your team, your hiring, your recruitment. What can we optimize to ensure that you are forever moving the needle and achieving great results, on a business level, but also as a business owner? So my vision for this podcast is going to be essentially me sitting here, diving into different strategies, different topics, different areas of life. I don't want to be restricted to just business, even though it's something I'm so passionate about. I am also very passionate about the fitness world. I just recently competed in my very first bikini bodybuilding show with the FMG Federation, and I came third, which was super exciting, super great placing for my very first show. But yeah, I want to dive into your mindset as a business owner, your lifestyle as a business owner, the things that you do for your fitness and your health and your wellness, and of course your business, your strategies, your sales strategies, your marketing strategies, your recruitment strategies. And obviously my origin story will share where my accolades come in all of these areas, but I will also be bringing on guests from the fitness world, the business world, the mindset space, bringing them on to see what they have done to achieve results and to achieve their success to get them to where they are. So there's lots to come. This podcast by no means will be perfect. I am very new to this and it is very, very daunting kind of filming in such a professional studio for my very first podcast. I'm at The Nest in Burleigh, but it is a super exciting space to be in. And yeah, this will be a little bit of a longer episode. So if you are here just for the value adds, by no means do you have to listen to my origin story, but I think it will give you a little bit more background into who I am and where I've come from. And yeah, hopefully continue to kind of dive into this space together. If you're listening to this, this is the very first episode, which is both super exciting and nerve-wracking. I am usually really good at talking in front of people and in front of crowds, but there's something about being in this professional room with two cameras looking at you that it has me a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit nervous, but I am so excited to dive into this because I feel like I am on this journey at the moment where a lot of people can relate. My name is Abbie. I'm living in the Gold Coast, and I only moved here probably 3 months ago now. So I moved here 3 months ago in pursuit of something else, or something more, I should say. I am 26 years old and I have lived my whole life in Sydney, more the western suburbs, sort of Castle Hill area if you're from Sydney and you know where that is. I was born there, raised there, and just kind of did a lot of obviously my growing up and my young 20s in that area. And whilst I loved it, I loved my life and my lifestyle there, I got to this point in my life where I felt like I needed change. I needed to challenge myself. I needed a new environment and just figure out who I was in the world without the comfort of the things that I was used to. So yeah, it was a really, really scary change. Last year was overall such a big year for me as an individual. I think it's crazy. Like if I showed you what my vision board looked like in January 2024, the things on that vision board, I wasn't even sure at that stage if I was going to achieve them all. A lot of them were career-based. I had a bikini bodybuilding show on that vision board, a trip to Europe, and I had photos of the Gold Coast. Now, out of all of those things, the Gold Coast seemed the most far-reaching for me, I should say. I just felt like it was going to be a change that I was never almost strong enough to make, if strong is the right word. I didn't know if I was going to be brave enough to kind of pack up my life in Sydney and move by myself. I don't have family or my close family up here. I do have cousins and an uncle up here, but I did it. I did all of those things on my vision board, and late December 2024, pack up my life and move to the Gold Coast. So here I am with a fresh new environment, fresh new start. And I guess this podcast is going to be a little bit of that origin story. So this one is really just an introduction into me as a person. Better with Abbie May, the idea behind the podcast is really just this idea of optimization, but not just optimization in one aspect of life, because I am such a believer that the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And I believe that, by being able to optimize and implement strategies into your lifestyle, into your fitness, into your mindset, into your business, just the little 1%ers every single day, you are going to create that snowball effect and things will just happen for you. And I think I have just proven that to myself in the past couple of years. I've been on this journey just chasing better. Like I keep using this phrase, to do better is to be better. And it's really just to hold yourself accountable. Like you are accountable for the things that you do, the way that you show up. And by holding yourself accountable and doing better in aspects of your life, you will simply be better. And it's just become a huge theme into like who I am as a person and what I am achieving. But yeah, me as an individual, and I guess a little bit about my origin story. So I have been in the marketing, business, sales kind of industry for a decade now. I was a manager at McDonald's in, 2025. So 2015. So I was managing this team from a very young age. I was still in high school, still trying to finish my HSC, and essentially responsible for a team of, anywhere from 15 to 20 employees on the floor at that time. Whilst I was also in high school, I was also in different leadership roles, obviously like your school council, your sports team leader, things like that. Leadership has always been such a huge part of who I am. Being a leader is just always been a part of who I am. I've always kind of taken the initiative and taken that role in any group setting where I kind of lead the group and nurture the group. And I think it's just so evident when you look at my history, me growing up from a child. I was an older sibling. I'm an older sibling to two, brother and a sister. But yeah, I guess you could say I've always been a little bit bossy. And the past decade, it's just about working out what is the difference between being bossy and being a good leader. And I've really kind of spent a lot of time diving into what is a good manager. Like, how can you be an empathetic leader? How can you motivate a whole team to understand your vision and work towards like that one unified goal? So I, by no means, have kind of figured it all out. I have made a lot of mistakes along the way. But in that sort of decade of different management roles, I've just found my passion. And that passion is essentially leading from the front. Like, I don't mind making mistakes publicly because I can then also like justify why I made that mistake, or kind of work with a team to say, you know, mistakes are normal. Like, okay, we fucked up there, we made a mistake. How are we going to pivot, and how are we going to work towards, you know, that goal that we all share? So going on a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, I had that role 10 years ago at McDonald's. I was a manager there. And then from that role, I essentially moved to a sales manager position at a gym. Now, that was a block or a period where, to be quite honest, it's definitely going to be something that I dive into in an episode. I let a part of myself go. Like, I was quite lost. I did really well in high school. I got a 94 ATAR. I was always in leadership teams, obviously in that role at McDonald's, and was always kind of put on a pedestal at that age. When I went to uni, I studied a Bachelor of Business. I ended up majoring in both marketing and HR. But during my uni period, which was about 3 to 4 years of my life, I don't have many fond memories of that period because I got lost in this party lifestyle. Now, at the time, don't get me wrong, it was fun. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of, you know, crazy stories and crazy memories that occurred during that time, but that wasn't a version of myself that I am proud of, and that wasn't a version of myself that I was aligned with by any means. But I always feel like, you know, looking back on it in reflection, I am an all-in personality. And what that means is when I go all in on something, I go all in. Like, I give it my 110%. And somewhere in that block of time, which was like 2016 to about 2019, I went all in on the party lifestyle. Like, I'm talking Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, just drinking a lot, you know, doing other things that I probably aren't proud of. And essentially during that time, I feel like I got my dopamine kicks from, you know, social events and hosting the biggest parties and going to the best nightclub events and being invited to the VIP rooms. Like, that was the dopamine hit that I was chasing. And it's something that I'm not ashamed of. Like, I will be honest about, because again, it's definitely made me part of who I am. I think during that time I learnt skills which has definitely helped me today. Networking being a huge part of it. Like, I was a very social individual to the point where I don't mind if I like showed up to an event by myself, because I knew I was going to meet people, and from that, like, make other friendships and meet their friends. And networking is a huge part of who I am today. But yeah, there was that block of period where I kind of look back on it now and go, she was just a lost human being that didn't really understand her goal or understand, you know, what she had to do in her lifestyle to just make sure that she was a better version of herself. I didn't really know what I was trying to achieve at that time. I was just showing up to uni. I think I was, obviously working that role in that sales position, and I was just ticking the bare minimum boxes. But I look back at it now and I think, like, during that time, was I ever really happy? Probably not. I was definitely using like all of that alcohol and the social events, everything else that came with it as a little bit of a mask. And yeah, it's not the best version of myself. So from about 2019, COVID happened. And during that time, I was lucky enough to be able to take a lot of gym equipment home from COVID. Obviously, I was working at a gym. I was living at Sydney at the time. So we had pretty hard lockdowns. And we were kind of, had periods where we weren't able to leave our homes. But I was lucky enough to have some gym equipment in my garage. So that was really when I got into fitness, and I just started to fall in love with fitness and started following fitness influencers and trying to hang out with people in the gym that were doing like the group classes on the Saturday, and then we were going to like run the Cronulla sand dunes on a Sunday, and slowly becoming more a priority for me to have my social events and my social dopamine kicks from that like fitness scene. And I just, again, fell in love with the fitness scene. So from about 2019, I got really big into like my own weight training in the gym. I had a few people around me that were doing the same thing, and I just zoned in on that. So in 2019 as well, tried to look into other ways to start making money. Now, I was coming towards the end of my uni degree and I was really enjoying the marketing side of things. From a very young age, during like primary school, high school, when people would ask me like, what do you want to be when you are older? One of the answers I remember telling people is, I want to be a CEO. Like I always just dreamt of being the boss of something that I owned or I was like proud of. In 2019, I was coming to the end of my uni degree and the sales job at the gym wasn't exactly serving me anymore. So during COVID, I started looking at a few other ways to make money. And that was when I obviously was starting to get into fitness. But then I also started looking into like a freelancing type position as a social media marketing assistant or manager. I remember spending hours looking at the ways other people were running their businesses and trying to work out exactly how I could make my own way in the space and how could I start doing what they were doing. So I launched an Instagram and I actually picked up a few clients just from word of mouth and people I knew. But in that time, I actually had somebody that I met through the fitness scene reach out to me, and he was probably a year after starting his business. So he was doing something similar, starting a social media agency and living in Sydney. And he reached out to me through Instagram and kind of proposed this role, said that it was like looking for a new individual. They were hiring. Was I interested? He had heard about me through social groups, knew that I had like personality and thought that I might be a good fit. So I went and did an interview with him, and funny story, but I actually didn't get the job at first. He hired somebody else, and I remember being distraught. I got really excited about the role, and I thought, that was the role for me. That was exactly where I wanted to work. And I remember getting the call to say like, hey, sorry, we've actually hired this other person, but you're still interested. I ended up doing like a little bit of copywriting for them on the side. So just a few little tasks, and I was still stuck in this role that I didn't exactly want to be in. So I was distraught, and I think it went on for like 2 or 3 months where I didn't really know what to do. I started to lose a little bit of confidence in myself. And he actually ended up calling me about 3 months later saying that they were then looking to hire the next person, and they really appreciated what I was doing for them just in terms of like the copywriting that I was doing and, was I interested in coming on board? And I was all of a sudden over the moon, excited. Yes, absolutely. I want to come on board. So I started with this person who was building out a social media agency. And at the time, the team was super small. We only had about 3 or 4 individuals. And the whole business structure was kind of the founder and then the coordinators who were just running social media accounts underneath him. But it was definitely an exciting environment to be around because I could tell this founder was like very entrepreneurial and had kind of a huge vision. And I spent a lot of time with him in those early days because it was a vision that I was excited by and I was excited to learn from him. And so I really, from a very early stage in that career, invested myself into him, invested myself into the business, and thought this is something that I could be really proud of and it's something that I want to go along the journey of. So I think that was, it was about 2019, 2020, but it was just before the second lockdown in Sydney. So we then entered a second lockdown of Sydney, and I remember I just took a lot of initiative in that time to kind of ensure the team were well working together. It was the first time the team had to work from home. So we all had to work virtually, and I took a lot of initiative in kind of managing the people, managing the team, managing the clients, and introducing new systems into this business. So things could still work effectively, even though we weren't all in the office. We had to pivot. We had to pivot a lot of the ways that we were creating social media content for our clients. And I definitely got my hands dirty with a lot of that. And I was definitely someone he wanted to kind of keep in his team and help him build these next stages of his business. So that was, about 2020. I then spent the next 4 years working relentlessly for this business and this brand. It was something that I was so proud of. If you asked anyone during that time, I loved my job. I loved the team. I loved what we were doing. We were working in such a fun, creative space. The clients that we had were exciting. I was really super lucky to work with one of the yacht owners in Sydney and build a really good relationship with her. And we spent a lot of time like doing little boat shoots and yacht shoots. I even got flown over to Whitsundays and did a shoot with them. We had clients in the food industry, cafe industry. It was just such a glamorous, like exciting role. And my role in that company grew as the company grew. I did a lot of the hiring. I did a lot of the system structure, the business development. I sat with clients. My role pivoted many times. It was such a rapid growth business that by the time that I was sort of, on the way out, so like last year, 2024, my role was somewhat of a director, but also a chief people and customer officer. So essentially, I was like people and culture of the team, and we ended up with a team of about 25 full-timers. But of course, we also had our contractors and sort of other individuals that worked with the team. So it was such a rewarding role, such a rewarding position to be in. I can obviously talk about it for a long time, and it's probably going to be another episode that I do create, is sort of how to optimize yourself and your mindset and a team like in that 9 to 5 kind of corporate structure. It was an agency, it always stays as an agency structure. But now obviously as this business grew, and it grew quite rapidly, I remember I had quite a lot of external voices saying to me, like, why don't you go do this for yourself? Why don't you go try something yourself? And I was always so stubborn in the idea that I knew I was in the right role and the right position for that time because I was learning so much. I obviously enjoyed my day to day. No, I probably wasn't like remunerated to, the structure that you could have been if it was your own business, of course. But I was willing to kind of risk that and sacrifice that because it was just such an exciting environment to be in. And I remember a comment that I would often make is, at the moment, I get to make all the mistakes with none of the risks. So I was kind of in that entrepreneurial landscape where I was hiring, I was firing, I was building out teams, building out structures, building out systems. And if something went wrong, like obviously it wasn't my business. I put my heart and soul into it like it was my business. And the business is still doing great today, and it's going to be one that obviously I think will take over Sydney and the marketing landscape because the team there are relentless. But so essentially during that time, I was working in this entrepreneurial landscape where I was making these big business decisions with this founder and the other directors. And, we were hiring, we were firing, we were implementing systems, we were changing structures, we were like talking to clients, landing new clients. And there were many times that we were in over our head, but it was the resilience that we brought every single day that has taught me so much about being a business owner, even though I'm only 8 weeks into owning my own business. So I feel like I have been doing this and in this landscape for a while now. Obviously, there's a lot more risk at the moment because I'm by myself all over again and I have all of the risk. It's all back on me, but I have already shown myself that I am resilient. And I have been able to overcome things, and a business can overcome things by pivoting and restructuring, and it has just genuinely given me so much experience for my age, and I'm so grateful for that time. And I think it was the perfect stepping stone for me to go, okay, like now I'm at this time. So it was late 2024, and a lot of things happened last year. A lot of things happened in my personal life. I completed a bikini bodybuilding show as well, and I came third in my very first bikini show. And whilst that was such a rewarding experience in itself, I really struggled with the reverse and coming from it and coming back off it. And so 2024 was obviously like a pivotal year for me. I completed that bikini bodybuilding show. I traveled Europe with some girlfriends, and I was kind of in between homes, not really sure where to live because my family were selling their family home and mum and dad were moving to Port Macquarie, which meant I didn't really have any more roots in Sydney. So when you kind of look at 2024 for me, like bird's eye lens, a lot happened. I remember sort of walking the streets and walking around the block and just having a really big think to myself. I was that person that a lot of people in my local area or my local community I was the person that everyone thought was doing really great. I had the good job. I had just gone to Europe. I just came third in my first bikini bodybuilding show. Like, of course she's doing great. Like, look at what she's posting on social media. Look at all of the achievements. What do you mean? Like, she's Abbie, she's fantastic. But that wasn't the case. I did not feel like that. I felt confused. I felt lost. I felt ashamed. I felt like I didn't know what I was waking up every single day for. Like I forgot what my goal was. Like I forgot what the purpose was. Essentially, I didn't know my why anymore. And I was going to work every single day and I had this feeling from my neck, from my shoulders, from like the back. It was just tense and I wasn't enjoying my environment anymore. I wasn't enjoying the way that I was showing up. I put on a little bit of weight, obviously post bodybuilding show. My skin was breaking out and I was just snappy. Like I was snappy with everyone, my loved ones, my friends. And it took a big like moment for me to go like, what's next? You have achieved all of these things. You are in this role at this company that is doing great. And yes, we can stay here because it's comfortable. You're earning a good salary and, you know, you are in this role where you're getting quite a lot of accolades for, but it just didn't feel like it aligned to me anymore. I feel like there was nothing that I was kind of fighting for. That I love a challenge. I love that feeling of waking up every day and going like, oh, we've got to fight for something today. Like there's something to achieve and there's something to push for. And I just didn't know what that was. So yeah, 2024, towards the end, it got a little bit scary there for a minute. Like my head got really loud, my thoughts got really loud, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. I do put a lot of pressure on myself, and I looked at myself and I thought, now's the time that you have to kind of pivot and you have to make a selfish decision for you. You're not happy in Sydney right now. Yes, you manage this team of like 25 plus individuals who you love so much. Like every person in that team sort of helped shape you be the person that you are today. But it was time for me to kind of take a step away and go, what's next? What's next for Abbie as opposed to what's next for, you know, the company that you were working for or what's next for this bikini bodybuilding journey that you started to go on. When we peel all of that back and look at Abbie May as a person, what's next for you? And I knew that the one thing that was really going to kick this next chapter into gear was relocation, and relocation to a place that I've always dreamed of living, which is the Gold Coast. So I started to kind of make things happen and I made a few calls and I was speaking to a girlfriend and she also wanted to move, and it probably took us about 2 months to land a place, but we made it happen. And early December, I remember the day she called me, I was actually swimming laps at a local pool and my phone started buzzing, or my watch started buzzing. So I like quickly swum to the end and I answered. It was on a FaceTime and we got accepted to this place that we are obsessed with. Like the location in the house that we live in right now is beautiful. And she was so excited and I was so excited and I was crying because I just knew, even though there was a big scary part that I had to overcome, which was, you know, leaving my job, leaving my hometown, leaving my friends, I knew that something about this move felt right and it felt like it was the thing that I needed to do. I will do a whole episode on like change and how important change is for growth, but without that scary change, and trust me, it was scary. There were days that I was crying on like the kitchen floor thinking, what are you doing? Like, you have it so good here in Sydney, like why would you leave? But without that scary change and kind of pushing through it, like I wouldn't have found this version of myself that it just feels so much more aligned to my future and my goals and who I want to be. I love the Gold Coast, but more importantly, like this dive into business, the business that we're about to start and we have started, sorry. I am 8 weeks into my own sort of entrepreneurial kind of landscape. And to be fully transparent, this podcast almost didn't happen. This podcast almost didn't happen today because I told myself, you're not ready. You don't exactly know what the podcast name is. You don't exactly like have the refined messaging for your business yet. And, you know, why would anyone listen to a podcast when you don't have those things like printed on a piece of paper on a wall yet? Like the imposter syndrome kicked in. Of course it did. Like imposter syndrome is a real thing. And I spoke with a girlfriend this morning and she said that's part of the journey. Like That is part of the journey. Everyone who has an established business has been in the exact position that I'm in right now. I am putting my heart and soul into this business that I am growing, and I have visions for it to be a consulting and marketing agency. I love the consulting space. I love working with business owners, entrepreneurs, especially people in the online business space. So your online coaches, your online PTs, even social media marketing agencies that are just starting. Those are the kind of individuals that I want to work with, is like, how can we build out their businesses, their systems, their teams, their structures, their content plans. And I've already had like such success with the clients that I am working with. And it's crazy. I started this business 8 weeks ago, and I am already in a position where I am quite comfortable. I'm living quite comfortably financially with the clients that I've been able to bring in just from word of mouth. I haven't even really turned on any marketing strategies yet, but just from word of mouth, the clients that I am working with pretty much covers the salary that I was on in that full-time role. And I remember for the first 3 months, January, February, March, that was my goal. I sat with my business coach. Yes, I invest in my own business coaches because I believe it's so important. But I sat with my own business coach and I said, my 6-month goal is to be earning as much as I was earning in my salary, obviously in my full-time position, to prove to myself that I can do it, that I didn't need a boss or a stable job, and that I was able to do this by myself. I achieved that in 6 weeks. Like, don't worry about the 6 months. I achieved that in 6 weeks. And that moment in itself was just like, holy shit, like, I don't know. I probably did have a moment of going like, I should have started this sooner. Like, what was I doing? But I do believe that everything happened for a reason. And being in that business for so long has given me all the knowledge and the experience that I need to now show up for my clients and show them how to grow a successful business, whether it be in the online space or building out a team. And I know that I am able to show up as a coach with experience and knowledge and wisdom to share. And I don't doubt my own services. Like, I don't doubt my own ability in my own service at all. So it's just super exciting, I guess, to kind of be in this space and now be in this entrepreneurial kind of landscape where I figure out exactly what my service offering is. What is the breakdown? Like, what am I going to offer? Who are the clients that I'm going to work with? I'm still figuring that out, and that's normal because I am only 8 weeks into business. And that's what this podcast is going to be about. Like, this podcast for me, Better with Abbie May, let's hope we call it that. If not, I'm sorry, we're probably going to have to change this. But Better with Abbie May is going to be about optimization. It's going to be about business optimization, lifestyle optimization, mindset optimization. It's going to be about the 1%ers that you can implement into your life to achieve better results. Like, we are moving towards better every single day, and it's holding yourself accountable because at the end of the day, nobody else is going to make the change for you. One of my favorite quotes at the moment is, if you are not changing, you are choosing. And that was a big kick up the butt for me last year when I was like, you are choosing not to change at the moment. You are choosing to stay here. You are choosing to feel this way. But this year, the whole theme for me is about, okay, what can we implement? Like, how can we pull back layers of your life? How can we look into your fitness? How can we look into your mindset? How can we look into your lifestyle and your business and go, what do we need to change? What do we need to implement? What do we need to take out, remove, get rid of completely so we can show up as the best version of ourselves and get closer to our potential? Because I don't think your potential has any limits. Like, your potential is as big as you want that to be. But if you stay comfortable for a long time and you just stay in this zone of comfortability, your potential is going to be so far reaching. Like, it's going to seem like you were never going to get there. But I promise you, like, I'll dive into this in episodes, but manifestation, it's real. Visualization, it's real. Because everything that I have manifested or visualized for myself, it now feels like it's in arm's reach. Like, it feels like I am getting there every single day. And it's so exciting. It's such an exciting space to be in. But it's because of the things that I have implemented and I choose to do daily. Like, I almost have no days off. Sure, I have rest days. Sure, I have days where I'm like, I'm not going to work today. I'm going to go out and be social. But I'm always doing something in the background. Like, can it be a mindset, like, framework kind of piece? Can I have a different conversation with a friend? Can I journal? Can I show up differently today to a stranger, which will make me proud of the person that I'm showing up to be? But this podcast is essentially going to be a space for me to talk about the ways that you can implement different strategies and lifestyle changes into, obviously, your business, your mindset, and your life to achieve better results. And I will definitely be bringing on guests. I'm so excited. I have such a great network of business owners and athletes and people in the space and the industry. I cannot wait to bring them on and to dive into conversations of what they've done. What have they done in their life to achieve the things that you want to achieve? Like, you as the listener, I'm sure there are people that you think, how have they done that? Like, how did they get there? How did they become pro at that bikini bodybuilding show? How have they built that successful business? How have they built that really strong online community or network? It's because they showed up for themselves. Like, they made the choices. They made some hard choices, but they did things every single day to show up as that version, to show up as their potential. And you can too. Like, that is the whole point of this podcast, is you can too. So super excited to go on this podcast journey. I am by no means a professional at this. This is my very first podcast. I like to show up on my Instagram stories, Abbie May on Instagram. I've done a few YouTube videos. I believe my name is also Abbie May on YouTube, but podcasting for me has always been the dream. And having this moment right now, it's pretty cool. I know I just absolutely rambled for, I think, 30 to 40 minutes, and there's still so many questions and things that have probably been left unsaid, but you'll get to know me. You'll get to know me throughout these episodes. But more importantly, these episodes are going to be just relatable little snippets for you. Relatable because I am by no means perfect, and I'm going to show you that. Like, I'm going to take you along the trials, the tribulations, the mistakes. I am growing this podcast. I am growing this business, and I'm going to take you along the journey because I think it's refreshing. A lot of the podcasts I listen to at the moment, all of these people that started them after their success, after they've already reached the milestones of having, a 6K figure business or an online community. I'm starting my podcast right at the beginning, right? Like, I don't have much of a following. I am still in the early stages of this business, but I'm going to take you along with me because it's part of the journey, and we are going to chat with guests and learn more about this space and this world along the way. And I am super, super excited to have you here and to have you on this journey. I do apologize for my rambles and my mistakes throughout this podcast. I will get better. It's quite daunting talking in front of two cameras and having the lighting set up, but super lucky to work with Dean at The Nest and have this space to create this podcast. If you are in the Gold Coast, definitely consider using this space, but definitely keen to be launching some new episodes. We will be aiming for weekly episodes and bringing on guests quite frequently. Like I said, I've got a great network of people both in the fitness and the business space, and I'll definitely be driving down into Sydney and doing some special guest chats with my network in Sydney as well. So thank you for tuning in. And if you want to connect with me, find me on Instagram. I have both my business page and my personal page. So it's Better Collective Agency or Abbie May. But more to come.